this time we want to welcome everyone to the boardroom tonight. It's so good to see everybody's smiling faces here and everybody's excited. It's about supper time, so we plan on not keeping everybody long here tonight. So as always, we would like to ask everyone to stand, and we begin our meeting with a prayer and a pledge. So tonight, Commissioner McPeters will do our prayer, and Commissioner Vaughn will listen to the pledge after the prayer.
Let's pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day that you've given us. Father, I pray that you forgive us our sins, our shortcomings, where we fail you. Thank you for saving us, Lord. Thank you for your Son, Jesus, who died upon the cross. Father, we pray as we conduct the business of the county tonight, Lord, we will do the business as right as you see fit. Lord, it's not what we want, it's what you want for our county and what's best for it. Dear God, we do pray. Just lead us, guide us, and direct us tonight in everything we do. In Jesus Christ's name we do pray. Amen.
Amen.
Everyone place your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks so much. You may be seated. All right, Commissioners, you have the minutes for tonight's meeting. Are there any additions or deletions by staff or commissioners? There being none, what's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
Okay.
You want to move to accept? Second.
Motion second. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any disapprove, like sign. You got the agenda before you. What's the pleasure of the board concerning the agenda as presented?
Make a motion we accept it as presented.
Second.
Okay. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Now we have the minutes before us. We actually voted twice to approve the agenda, I believe, didn't we? So that's pretty good. That agenda's pretty solid tonight, isn't it? Let's do the minutes now.
Move we approve the minutes.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay, at this time, let's move to our first item on the appointment schedule, Alberto update. And we have some people we need to recognize here tonight. So, Mr. Kehler, come forward, sir. The floor is yours, my friend.
Right, we appreciate the opportunity to present before you. Before we move to Chief Richardson, just several quick updates. Our office is monitoring Hurricane Florence and like to provide you an update on this dangerous storm. As the 5 o'clock update, Hurricane Florence has sustained winds of 140 miles per hour with an expected landfall Thursday evening as a major hurricane near Wilmington, posing life-threatening storm surge, high winds, and deadly inland flooding. This morning we began the day with two distinct scenarios based upon the forecast tracks from the different models. One that had a much western track and brought it inland that would have significant consequences for the areas in the mountainous regions of the Appalachians. We began coordinating with our agency partners on Sunday. We are doing daily coordination emails twice a day. This morning, emergency services staff came together for a staff meeting and began activating our planning template for our hurricane readiness. All of our disaster equipment in our warehouse went through operational readiness check or is in the process. From public information standpoint, we are pushing Ready NC app and Nixle, signing up instructions for Nixle. Deployment of personnel and equipment has been placed on hold until we understand the impacts to Western North Carolina, and once we, hopefully there will not be any, we will begin releasing that for the many requests that are already out there for our partners in the eastern and central part of the state. Some areas are expected to receive over 20 inches of rainfall. Monitoring the storm around the clock, and we'll continue close coordination, making decisions on future planning meetings and conference calls with our agency partners. Moving on to Alberto, recovery update. Our agency continues to be involved in the recovery process from Alberto back in May. The appeal for federal declaration was denied by FEMA based upon their decision that it was two separate events and not one flooding event that we dealt with for over 15 days in the month of May. That appeal decision is due back in by North Carolina to FEMA by September 20th, and then a final decision will be made. If there's a denial, we'll come back under a state declaration. There's different categories that we will go through to request state assistance. and that will determine the amount of reimbursement back to the county and for our private citizens. Our office remains in contact with these citizens. We are trying to provide phone call or email updates every 7 to 14 days with each individual that has filed a damage report. Number one, to let them know that we haven't forgot about them and we're still advocating for assistance. I think the most important part of this update is our office, along with our partners, have completed 21 after-action items that were identified after Alberto. Those are improvement plans that we have implemented and that we will enact upon this storm if it comes. But it's our commitment and our agency and partners' commitment to improve our response and learn from our past storms. This time I want to move into the actual response phase to Alberto. Many of the people that are in this room were involved in heroic actions on the night Alberto struck. It is one of the busiest times that we have seen other than Hurricane Francis and Ivan. The 911 center processed in a 24-hour period over 800 calls for service. We catted or entered into the computer over 600 actual calls to be dispatched, and there was multiple life safety missions that occurred that night. It's absolutely unbelievable that we ended with that event with 0 fatalities, minor injuries. We did have property damage, but that can be replaced. And there was no loss of life. The story that you're fixing to hear from Chief Richardson on the rescue life safety mission in Old Fort was certainly a team effort, and everybody from the folks who work on our fleet maintenance to our vehicles to everyone behind the scenes had a part in the entire Alberto response. And certainly, hopefully, we can get them squeezed in from the hallway so they can be recognized if there's others out there. But McDowell County is a special place for all of these departments that come together as one team. It doesn't matter what the color the truck is or the uniform. Everybody has one mission in mind, and that's to protect life safety. And it's my privilege to introduce Chief Ron Richardson from Old Fort Fire Department.
Thank you, William. I have a timeline. We put this together at request for the events on May 29 on Catawba River Road. And I'll just read this through. Some of you may have copies already. The weather was raining hard, it was dark, and there were reports of flooding in the area. 20-30 hours, Service 409 dispatched to Catawba Falls Campground for evacuation. Colton Jenkins, Scott Lanning, and Sam Williams on board. Evacuated 14 to higher ground. Attempted to transport 3 to shelter, but was blocked by a mudslide later. 20-54 hours, Brush 408 dispatched to a tree down on Catawba River Road. Jared Cody on board. 20-58 hours, Brush 407 en route to a tree down on Catawba River Road after having been diverted to a motor vehicle crash call on I-40. Bobby Sherman and Nick Tolley on board. 2100 hours, Brush 408 on scene. Advised that the road was shut down with mudslide. 2104 hours, Brush 407 on scene. 2104 hours, DOT dispatched the mudslide. 2137 hours, Brush 408 observed DOT plow truck being swept into the river and called for help. This was the second slide at the same location. Engine 404 dispatched to DOT truck in the river. Brandon Freeman and Mackenzie Burnett on board. Jamie Grindstaff on scene. 2138 hours, service on scene. Culled trees to gain access to Jared from the west side. 2140 hours, incident command advised dispatch that subjects were out of the truck and on top of the truck in the river. Scott threw throw bags and throw ring to DOT workers on top of the truck. Colton and Scott sent 2 PFDs, which are vests, down the road. 2141 hours, engine 404 on scene. Brandon observed another slide movement, and as he went to Jared, another slide came down and covered the road. 2149 hours, incident command advised dispatch of another slide. 2154 hours, incident command advised that the subjects were in the water. Jared had hold on one rope that was tied to both subjects. This line was then secured to a tree and another throw bag line was tied from this line to service 409's winch cable. Colton threw another rope bag and the subject cut the first rope as the current was pulling him under at the bank, and they grabbed the second rope. 21:58 hours. The river water level rose about 3 feet and sent the truck rolling over on down the river. 2200 hours. Jamie requested a 24-foot ladder. Mackenzie, Travis Green, and Nick brought the ladder in and put it down the bank to the river and footed it on a tree. Jamie and Bobby got floodlights up on engine 404. 22:17 hours. Incident command advised that one subject was on the roadway. Jared went down the ladder. Brandon removed PFD from the first subject and gave to Travis to wear going down the ladder to help shoulder the second subject up the ladder. 22:20 hours. The second subject was about 3/4 way up the ladder when Sugar Hill Fire Department, Emergency Management, Rescue, and EMS personnel came across the slide to assist. 22:28 hours. Incident command advised that both subjects were on the roadway. Brandon told everyone to leave equipment and leave the scene. Personnel assisted both subjects out of the slide area. A total of at least 7 slide movements occurred over 2 slide areas that were about 75 to 100 feet apart. Personnel were working between the 2 main slide areas in an area where a slide had moved about 10 feet at the top but did not come down into the roadway. I've got a couple of videos, about 3 minutes each. These are drone videos that Randy Best took. And I figure out how to run this computer to make them play. All right, if you can see the orientation of that, got a pointer, that'll work. That'll do a lot better. That's, first slide is back here. This is the middle ground, which had pulled away from the top, and that is the second main slide area. The truck was in the river about right here. Our guys were about right here working with the ropes to pull them out. So, where'd she go? Tell me how to get it to move. They should be playing and running on through this. It's a pretty quick video.
It's running across the bottom.
It's not moving though. Yeah, but he should be on down the road. I think it's frozen. That's 1,100 foot downstream. That's the DOT truck in the river on its side with the bed up, and up here's the plow in front.
Ron, how much does that truck weigh? Roughly.
It's a full.
It's heavy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It says 38,000.
38,000.
This drone video is high resolution, and I brought my little notebook. It plays fine, but we didn't have the cables to apparently cable it up. But apparently the resolution's too high for this older computer to run. You want to try to get it to play? I've got a few remarks. This is just a few remarks to go along with that. Most of the time, you work from a position of safety. You have the high ground, you have your equipment for protection, you have more resources to help. This time they found themselves in an unsafe position. The high ground was behind and above them, and they couldn't clearly see it in the dark. A mudslide had swept the plow truck over and down into the river. While they were working to rescue the men in the truck, another slide occurred 75 to 100 foot beside the first slide. They found themselves in the middle between the slides, hearing trees popping and cracking and wondering if the middle part was going to slide off and put them in the river too. If you do this work long enough, you may find yourself in a situation or get called to a situation where you will have this thought, is this it? Am I going to survive this? Can I see this through? These firefighters answered that question. They stayed with it. They literally did not let go. Very few people get the opportunity to save a life, much less save two. To do it while you were at risk, you cheated dead. And one more thing, we have a friend, retired Charlotte Fire Department Captain Benny Clark. He teaches a class every year at our Fire and Rescue College. And some of us help him with that class. About 9 o'clock the next morning, I got a text from Captain Clark. He said, "You guys okay up there? Much water." About 6:30 that night, I answered him back. I think about 14 inches event total. Been busy. Everyone is okay. I-40 landslide at 67 mile mark. All lanes closed for several hours. Worst incident was landslide on Catawba River Road that swept DOT tandem dump truck into the river with 2 men. Our guys pulled them up and out with throw bags, rescue ring, and a 24-foot ladder. While pulling them out, the truck broke loose and continued upside down 1,100 feet downstream. He answered me back with a 4-letter word. First letter starts with a D. He said, "My kudos to the brothers making the grab. Sounds like they used all the tools in the toolbox. Magnificent work. Achievement, be proud." In my words, fire service is brotherhood. I'm proud of these brothers who did the job that night. Well, the first one, you just zip it back there to the beginning part, and I can show that. Yeah, this is okay. You get right back to the beginning there and stop it. A little bit further back. Look right there. That's the first slide area that Jared saw. This is the middle area. You can see the trees leaning, and that's the 10-foot or so area that where it pulled loose, but it never did get into the road. And that's the second slide area that the others had to go across. Now the road's been cleared at DOT. This is the next morning. They've already got the road opened up, but you can still see some of the debris on the sides of the road. Okay, go ahead. And that's going, Randy's going down east toward Old Fort, Catawba River Road. And over here you can see where the river was out of its banks. And then you can see the truck. Now the truck, and up there behind us is, that's Wildcat Mountain. Give folks an idea of where we were, or where they were. This truck got lodged against a group of trees, and we think, without getting hung up on the trees, it would go a lot further on downstream. You can see how wide the river was at that point when it came out of the channel over here. And back over here is a private bridge that we still don't know how the truck got underneath the bridge or over the bridge, because DOT was down there and they could not find any marks on that bridge from that truck passing. Okay. Go ahead to there's a close look. He's having to work that drone in between 2 sets of wires to get in there to get a close up. Okay. And that second video, we won't go there. And that's starting where the first one ended. Again, the tree and the truck. and come on there with it. And now he's gaining elevation and going on that treetop level, and then he'll gain on that higher. And this gives you an idea of how high the slide was. There's the top of it, but the hillside is much higher even up behind it. This is also the same place, the flood of 1977, local resident Steve Allison in a pickup truck was coming home in that same place, and he wound up having, they don't know exactly, but he's somehow right in there is where he got pushed into the river, and he did not make it. He died, and they found his truck and him way on downstream. Of course, that's going on west up Catawba River toward Catawba Falls.
Mr. Chairman, is it okay if we have everyone that was involved?
Oh, yeah, yes, I was just waiting for you to get done with that. Yes, sir, bring them on in.
If we could get the folks in the hallway that were involved in that incident to come up to the front, and I'd like to recognize the agencies for this response and Alberto overall.
Bare room.
Leave that department. Greg?
Yeah. Is the press here so we can get a picture of that? At this time, we want to get a picture. Our clerk will come out, and commissioners, y'all get out here too with him.
Right here behind.
Stand up.
They're gonna have wide angles.
Stand up. See.
You know, when you look at the men and women who were up here, the ones that were on the scene that night, if you'll raise your hand if you were on the scene at that. Hearing some of the stories that were told several days after that event, these people made the decision to stay in the face of them potentially being killed with the hillside continuously rolling off. It's dark, it's pouring rain like you're pouring it out of a bucket. The river's rising in feet and not inches. And these men and women stuck it out. And that's, I think, what you find across the spectrum, law enforcement, fire, rescue, EMS, the 911 center, emergency management, is you got an entire team in this county that comes together to protect life safety. And on that night, the team mission came together and it worked. So these people, they risked their own life that night. And we have calls all the time, and you know, a lot of these calls we call them everyday calls, and they become routine. That call was not routine that night. These folks are brave and they're heroes, and this county appreciates it. Mr. Chairman, thank you for letting us present.
Yes, sir. William, the night this occurred, I was up at the command center, and just for the people of McDowell County, we don't realize, as William said, the training, the dedication, the hard work, and then decisions made on the spot, on the scene. They didn't run; they stayed right there. And being there that night, Williams elaborated on it somewhat. But to see the different agencies work together, and we had the possibility of a dam breakage, and to see law enforcement, EMS, fire, rescue, people sometimes will come to commissioners and say, well, we think the fire departments get too much money. my response is always this. Number one, who gets up when the call goes out during supper? I've seen EMS, police, fire, rescue, a call comes in and they get up and they leave their food, they take off, they respond. I don't do that. A lot of you don't do that, but they do that. They spend countless hours training required by the state per year. And you know, that's time away from their family, time that they could be doing something they enjoy, but they're getting those training hours, which is required by the state. So much can be said about these men and women, but our board recognizes the dedication, the hard work, and they are, as William said, they're a family, and I look at it as that part of the family protecting the rest of us. You know, we're family and we're in this together. So hats off to the men and women that were there that night and who are there day in, day out. And we really want to honor you today and just say thank you as a board for all you do. And William's done an excellent job, and Chief Richardson has tonight in bringing the facts out to the public. And what a great group we've got. I'll say this, we've got the best in the state right here in McDowell County. Would y'all agree with me right there? We got the best of the state right here. So William, hats off to you and everybody present. Y'all do wonderful.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks so much. Okay, this time let's move to item B on our appointment schedule. We have Mr. Conley somewhere in the building. I don't see him. I've been trying to find him. Outside. Come on in, Mr. Conley. He is here to talk about transportation, and he has a resolution that our board needs to approve. And for all you football fans, how many Panther fans are in the room? One or two. How many Cowboy fans are in the room? None? I'm a Cowboys fan. They played Sunday, and Mr. Conley and me had a wager, and I lost because the Cowboys lost. So next month I'll be wearing a Panthers tie to the boardroom, right?
That's right.
I was really wanting to see you wear a Cowboys tie in here next month, but it's all right.
Y'all would have to drag me in here.
The floor is yours, my friend. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, board. I'm coming before you with the resolution for receiving ROPE funds for fiscal year 19. ROPE stands for Rural Operating Assistance Program. Under the ROPE umbrella, there are 3 categories of funding we will receive once board's approval. These funds are elderly disabled, transportation assistance, employment transportation assistance, along with rural general public, which we were not able to receive in prior years until becoming public. The county will be looking to receive $159,253 in ROPE funds. With that broke down, EdTap will be receiving $69,948. Employment will be receiving $12,049, and RGP will be receiving $77,257. With these approvals, the application will be submitted to DOT.
Okay, Mr. Wood, anything you need to add, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, comments or questions by board members? What's the question, board? Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Mr. Conley, we appreciate the work you're doing. Transit system is how old now?
7 months?
7 months. You're doing a great job. Thanks for all you do, Randall.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening.
And thank you too.
Okay, at this time, let's move to our 5:30 appointment. We have the 175th anniversary celebration coming up, and we have Chuck Abernathy somewhere in the building. I see him. Come on in, Chuck. And we have Martha Jordan here too. Right, Chuck?
Yes, yes.
Okay, come on up. The floor is yours.
Well, we're here for 2 reasons. We'll be very quick. Crowds still make me nervous. We are celebrating the 175th anniversary of the founding of the city and the county, and that starts in 2 weeks. And I have with me Martha Jordan, who is the new director of the Carson House. If you remember, I was co-chairing that, but I've got Martha now helping me. So if it's all right, we'll just quickly review a couple of the items that we're doing, and Martha and I will tag team this if that's all right. You've got the same list I do. So again, we start on the 22nd of September. There is a website called McDowell175.com. If you go to that, you can see a listing of all the events. You can register for the different events. You can purchase tickets, etc. So we start with a And again, I'm going to do this quick. We start with a historic fun run on Saturday, the 22nd. On that same, that's at what time?
9 a.m.
9 a.m. in the morning. There's also a county quilt that will be on display at the county library. On the 23rd, there is, which is Sunday, there is a pet parade at the YMCA. Pets will dress up in costume, and it'll be, if you've ever been to one, they're actually a lot of fun. There's an event that afternoon that I'm going to have Martha cover, which is...
Okay, the afternoon tea and fashion show is put on by the Historic Carson House. It's a ticketed event if you'd like to. We only have a few spaces left, but that's $20 for the ticket. Carrie Davis has historic dresses that she has created according to patterns, and there'll be young ladies modeling those outfits, and then people will enjoy afternoon tea and get directions on the conversation pieces of using fans. So ladies, if you're interested, wear your hat and gloves. It's going to be a fancy afternoon.
I'll do the next three, and then you do stay right where you are. You do the next one. There will be an art exhibit at MACA featuring Howard McCurdy, scruffy drawings, if you remember those. And those will be on display at MACA on the 24th. In the courthouse, there will be a dedication of the 5 highest serving judges that came from McDowell County in the history of McDowell County. We have got 2 appellate court judges that are currently serving and 2 Supreme Court justices that have served in the past. And we had the first African American elected to any statewide office in the history of the state of North Carolina that came from McDowell County that was a federal judgeship. So there will be a plaque put up at 12 o'clock, and that will be special. That evening there is a historic homes tour that will be restricted to the first 30 people that sign up. If there's an overflow, we will do additional runs on that. That's free. Again, go to the website, and that's really going to be a lot of fun.
Okay. In addition to that, the Historic Carson House is hosting nearly 2,000 children in that week, which that's kind of stressful for me. But anyway, all the public school 8th graders and all the 4th graders are going to be there. They're going to be demonstrators from the Overmountain Victory Trail. Other historic agencies are going to help out with that. So the kids are going to have a great experience. And we're accommodating Eastfield the week before since they're out on break that last week. So we've got looking forward to all those children coming. Then, of course, Friday, downtown, the art walk, and we're going to have some fabulous new art that will be on display downtown, and you'll see more about it hopefully in the paper and on the website. Then there's a downtown concert, lots of activities going on downtown. They'll be free for the public, so it'll be a lot of fun. And then on Saturday, the 29th, beginning at 10 a.m. at the Carson House, we have a huge event starting out with living history demonstrations by the Overmountain Victory Trail. Then at 11, from 11 to 4, we have musicians from all over the area. We have an Irish band, Scottish, several other, just all kinds of music. It's all free. It'll be in the arbor. If it's raining, no problem. We've got that covered. We'll have food trucks and available so people can come and stay all day. Then later on that evening, just plan to camp out. The play written by Freddie Bradburn called Spirit and Bone will have its premiere, and it's going to be in the arbor at the Carson House. It is a historical fiction play written by him and produced by the Foothills Community Theater. So that will be a ticketed event too. Just look on the website for that. So then they will do it again on Sunday afternoon if you miss it on Saturday night. So,
You guys are invited to all of that. We look for you and hope that we make you proud.
and if any of you would like to volunteer, just call me out at the Carson house, and I'll put you to work. Thank you.
You're going to be busy, for
Go to the
sure.
website. Thank you.
Thanks so much. We're excited about it and look forward to that happening. We've got a proclamation concerning the 175-year anniversary. We'll go ahead and approve that tonight, and then we'll read that the day of the celebration. So what's the pleasure of the board?
Move we approve the proclamation.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Thank you. At this time, let's move to, we're ahead of schedule. Let's start with new business, item A, tax matters. Mr. Wooden, go ahead, sir, and lead us out.
They are fairly routine, your monthly tax matters, but you do have a 10-year write-off request from the tax collector. This would write off non-collectible taxes from 2007, but everything else is fairly standard.
Okay, comments or questions by board members? What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion approved tax refunds.
A second.
Discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay, let's go down to B, under new business, the ambulance donation request. Go ahead, Ashley and William, do you want to speak to on this?
We've got good backup. We have a 2008 Ford ambulance that's surplus. As far as I understand, it's not been driven in a year. We did search government auction sites, and they don't attract a lot of money with that much mileage, and so we'd recommend that it be donated to McDowell Tech for training purposes.
Okay, comments or questions? I will say this, that Commissioner McPeters does teach a class, and go ahead and brag a little bit about how well your students do. Give results for the last 3 years in about 2 minutes.
Okay, we've actually had a rundown the other week. We've placed about 16 students in either full or part-time jobs since we started teaching the EMS program at McDowell High School. Actually, this year I split. I go 2 classes in McDowell High, then I go to the community college after 11:30 and work down there for this semester, just because one of the classes didn't have enough kids to actually sign up for the college. But we're starting to see the fire. The law classes really picked up tremendous out there, and actually I think they're just putting their first student into a full-time job, either in Morganton or Hickory, I think maybe. So,
Talk about how well they did statewide on the
statewide, our students, we start our 5th year. We have won first place every single year that we went to state to compete for EMT. First year we won 1st and 5th. Second year we won 1st, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Last year we took 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And the reason we didn't take 5th place, we didn't take but 4 people. So we walk in there, we build a good relationship with that group, and the medical directors from Gaston County will walk over and say, you know, we don't know what to expect out of you, but we know what's been in the previous. Actually, Mackenzie Burnett is not in here. She was our very first place winner in the state competition at Greensboro at Skills. So we was very proud of her. It's always been girls winning first place, except for this past year we had a boy finally stepped up to the plate. But very exciting times.
Okay, great, Barry, thanks.
Thank you.
Now,
Less than 2 minutes.
You did great. The action request tonight is the donation of the ambulance to McDowell Technical Community College. What's the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion, we donate the 2008 Ford ambulance to McDowell Tech Community College for training purposes.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, let's move on to C under new business. This will be the fire department waiver request. Mr. Wooten, go ahead, sir.
Sugar Hill Montford Cove Fire Department is building a substation. You've heard about that at your fire commission joint meeting. They are preparing the site now. Several weeks ago, some structures on the site were cleared. And so there's 2 requests here. They're asking that the tipping fee be waived and the inspection fee be waived. We still don't know the actual dollar amount on the tipping. We think it's about $2,000. But you do have the inspection fee of about $2,100 that's being asked to be waived for this project.
Okay, here again, this fire department, as all our fire departments, work very hard, and they've actually reduced the fire rating in that district, William, down to a 5. So anybody living in the Sugar Hill, Mumford Cove district was rated at 9 cents, and they dropped to 5. The rating did, so that's saved the people in that district money. So if you're living in that district, because of the hard work of the fire department, you have a lower homeowner's insurance bill now. So that's just another way the fire departments are helping you out by lowering those ratings, which in turn help you as a homeowner to reduce your premium for your fire insurance. So what's the pleasure of the board concerning this request?
I move we waive the, whatever it is, $2,143 on the inspection fee and the tipping fee for the.
I second it.
Discussion. All in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay, thank you. Let's move to item D under new business. This will be a smoking policy amendment, first reading. Mr. Wooten, go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. Recently had a discussion about the Charters of Freedom up on the courthouse lawn, and there was a request that we amend the smoking policy as it pertains to the courthouse property. So several years ago, that board approved a policy prohibiting smoking within 50 feet of any entrance. There was a request stated to bring before the board tonight to prohibit smoking on the courthouse lawn. And so what you have in front of you, and subsequent to that original policy, there was some additions to recreational properties, and that wasn't touched here. But so what you have here is language that would add the entirety of the courthouse lawn under that policy.
Okay, comments or questions?
I'd like to make sure the attorneys understand that I came by and they were smoking right outside the windows in the front entrance there one day. One of the attorneys came outside and I was driving, just so happened, right timing, sitting there smoking right out. So just make sure they understand that they have to abide by the rules too.
Okay, duly noted.
This is a first reading unless you waive.
All right, first reading. We will take this back up next month and vote then. This time let's move to item E, the road bond approval under new business. Mr. Wooten, go ahead, sir.
Mr. Harmon is somewhere in the building, probably looking for a seat still, but the planning board has received information about a new development on Lake James. They've approved a preliminary subdivision plat. As part of that process, there is a road construction bond that the developer is asking that you approve. And essentially what this does is by approving this bond, you will, if the developer goes defunct or out of business, you can cash in that bond and pave the road, essentially.
Which, in our county, we have several subdivisions that did not have that, and now we've got property that's pennies on the dollar, and people can't get roads into them. So, comments or questions by board members? What's the pleasure of the board?
Move we approve the bond.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Okay, thank you, commissioners. Let's move to item number F. This is the pay plan additions. Mr. Wooten, go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. We noticed after reviewing our county pay plan, there were several positions that have been added over the years as part of the budgeting process, but those positions weren't formally incorporated into our pay plan, and our policy requires that the board do that. It's not something we can do administratively. There's actually some deletions as well, but the first one, you'll see various job titles, social work trainee, EMT basic, payroll tech, just different positions starting at grade 57 going all the way to grade 71. You also see job titles removed, daycare teacher. The county's operated a daycare center, and so we probably need to get that off of our pay plan. A couple other positions, and a couple of job titles reassigned to new grades is the last page there. And these are, again, positions that have been approved as part of the budgeting process but never actually moved on the pay plan. So this just cleans up our documentation.
Okay. Comments or questions?
I just noticed that EMT basic, I only raised $10 in 30 years. I started out at $14,376 at EMS. That's a big raise. That's a lot of raise in 30 years and $10,000.
Other comments, questions? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to approve the pay plan additions.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay, thank you. Let's move to item G. This will be the Energy Programs Outreach Plan. Mr. Wooten, go ahead, sir.
Yes, Lisa Sprouse, the DSS director, had sent the attached Energy Programs Outreach Plan. This is a plan that DSS has to approve every year and send to the state. Essentially says how the staff there will notify the public of funding assistance for energy programs. So it does require DSS or county commissioner approval if that's the setup. So.
Okay, comments or questions?
Move we approve the plan.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. For people here tonight, it seems like we're moving pretty rapidly, but we have this information well in advance, and board members can contact staff and anybody they need to speak to. So this is not just the first look at this. We've had this for a while. So wanted y'all to know we do our homework and we do our due diligence, okay? We don't just come in just like that and we're gone. So a lot of work goes into what you're seeing happen tonight. So let's move to the next item. Let's go to the accounting policy amendment. Mr. Wooten, go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. So the county has an accounting policy that essentially lays out how we process purchase orders, how purchases are approved up and down the organization, invoices are paid, et cetera. Believe it was formally approved maybe 3 or 4 months ago. We had sent this policy to, it's interesting, whenever we receive state and federal grants, we essentially do that on the condition that those agencies are allowed to review our audit. And they are able to make comments on our audit findings if there are any. And in some cases, they're able to compel action on our part if there are audit findings. So there was one audit finding last year of 3 financial transactions that accounted for about a total of $200 that were not processed properly. They were signed by 4 people and not 5. And so there are other counties that recently implemented where at least 2 people sign invoices and at least 5 people sign here. So we thought we were pretty good, but I guess not in their eyes. But so the Federal Department of Justice has periodically granted the county funds. They had reviewed our audit. They were dissatisfied with our response. And they asked that we revise our accounting policy. And so if we did not, we would not be eligible for any future funding from that department. So we spoke with the sheriff instead of applied to a lot of his funding that is federal, and so we felt it was a good idea to amend the policy. So what you have is highlighted in yellow as far as the changes. And again, it's adding 3rd, 4th, 5th, sometimes 6 layers of approval for some of these purchases. So there should be great confidence in the public of proper transactions happening. The finance director has done a cover memo. She's asking that you waive the first reading and approve this as the final policy change. In order to be eligible for funding, this has to be in by September 24th. So again, this was an existing policy we're making stronger, tougher, et cetera. So we would ask that you waive the first reading and approve tonight.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
Move we waive the first reading and approve the policy as presented.
Okay, do we have a second? Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Okay? All right, thank you. Let's move to our next item on the agenda, and let's go to item D under old business. This will be the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners Legislative Goals. Mr. Wooten, go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. Last month, we had essentially a first reading for legislative goals. And again, the NCACC stands for the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, which is an organization made up of the 100 counties in the state. And that organization exists for the purpose of serving the counties. So they do that by service delivery, through risk management pools, et cetera. But they also serve as a lobbying group for the counties. And so they have a process. Commissioner Green participated, I believe, 2 years ago, where they will receive legislative goals from all 100 counties. And then they vote on those goals and work with a lobbying plan essentially in the long session, which starts in January. And so last month, again, you had this, something to just kind of get your mind going a little bit. I had sent the comments that are attached from the DSS director, Ms. Sprouse, some of the proposed changes for Medicaid. And so if you had any other additions, if you'd like to include the comments she's put forth, or if you had other thoughts, be glad to formalize those and send those to whoever is designated as the county's representative.
Comments or questions? One thing that we dealt with, and we do have on the agenda tonight, the Health Department update, the stringent requirements by the state on soil scientists. Is there any movement among the association to lobby the state to reduce somewhat?
I talked to, if I may have the floor a second, Chairman. I talked to Representative Josh Dobson, and he is totally aware of the situation. He did go before the Insurance Commission and made suggestions that would help our county and health department, or environmental health issues, and he was declined by the Insurance Commission.
Okay.
It does bleed into the other agenda item, but that is a statewide problem. And I know the district staff can definitely speak to that, but when managers and commissioners convene, that is a common thread. Staffing for these positions, as well as social workers and a lot of other agencies that require specialized training, is very difficult for rural areas especially.
I think it'd be great if our board could draft some type of a letter to go to our senator and our House member and to the governor's office, whomever, to advocate on behalf of the district, because as you stated, it's a statewide problem, and specifically for rural counties too.
We did that one. We did that, about a year ago, and we were shot down then too. So that's twice. I think you need to start putting pressure. I understand there's rules and regulations, but
They're ridiculous.
they're going to have to back off. It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Well, and in the conversation you have with the health department personnel, and Karen specifically has met with us several times. You're not asking them to not have guidelines or policy or regulation. We want sensible guidelines, policies, and regulations that will get these people in the field working quicker and not take so long. So by consent, would the board be agreeable to go ahead and have something drafted again to send to the governor's office and our House and Senate
Yes.
representative? Okay, let's do that actually by consensus. Let's move forward and draft language in our support of and advocate for that. And then again, within the association, we can make that known also. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, there being none, let's move to item C under old business. Mr. Wooten, personnel policy change, and this is the second reading. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. Last month, we introduced this. It arose from a discussion amongst the board as far as being competitive. Speaking of staff and recruitment, our existing policy as it states is that those local government employees coming from outside the agency to come work for the county, if they want to maintain their vacation accrual rate, it requires board approval. We did some research on that, and there had been times where it had been granted, times it hadn't been granted. It just seemed inconsistent. And so what we heard is that you wanted a consistent policy. So we looked at ways to be competitive, attractive, et cetera, for potential employees. The best solution we could come up with was, and the fairest solution was to change our policy, as you see. That would, for existing employees yet to come, their years of service would be calculated based on how much time is recorded in the local government retirement system. And so if they worked for the city of Fayetteville and they come here to work as a deputy tax collector, we would look at the retirement system and say, okay, they worked there 20 years. We will credit them 20 years as far as their accrual rate. And that's not to say they would earn 2,000 vacation hours or what have you. They're paid out at their former employer. You would grant the rate here, and they would be earning that rate here. And looking back, we did have a discussion about, okay, we'll start this July 1 at the board approved, of course, or August 1 or September 1 or whatever. And it just didn't seem fair to folks that had been here, that had been hired in June or April of 2015. And so what this would do, again, for anyone that is working for the county, that had been here maybe 10 years, that had prior service, it would give them credit. This isn't paying back any lost time or anything like that, but we'll start anew if this is approved. Does that make sense?
Comments or questions? You've had an opportunity to look at this, review it, and ask questions. What's the pleasure of the board?
Move we approve the policy change.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay, let's move to item B under old business. This is board appointments, and we have 4 people who have applied for the planning board, and there are 3 seats that are open. This is the second reading, so you have a ballot sheet. So please indicate by a check mark who you want, and our clerk will tabulate the totals. For everybody here tonight, what we do on board appointments, we have 2 readings. That way, it's just standard policy a previous board had put into place. And so this is a second reading, so we vote at a second reading, not a first reading typically.
We have 4 votes for Sam Dodson, Coy Edwards, and Benny Stamey. No, actually, we have 5 votes, I'm sorry about that, for Sam Dodson and Coy Edwards. We have 1 vote for Alpo Portelli. So the Sam, Coy, and Benny are in there.
Okay. Madam Clerk, you can notify them. Thank you so much. Now, let's move to our appointment schedule. We have a 6 o'clock appointment. We have Mr. Brian Ingram with us here to talk about Medicaid and the transition and an update. Go ahead. Come on up here, gentlemen. Good to have you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, Mr. Wooten. At least no one booed when you spoke about the topic. That's a good start. I'm the CEO of Via Health. We used to be Smoky Mountain Center, and we are the manager of care for your citizens that have mental illness, substance use, or intellectual and developmental disabilities. So we're into this transformation business up to our eyeballs. And if your group is like any other, it's a very, very confusing topic. So what I want to try to do tonight is just do a real kind of high-level overview. Updated the PowerPoint. I'm sorry, the one we're going to be showing here has a lot of details in it. Would be great if you are so impressed with what you hear tonight in 15 minutes and you want to invite me back for a work session. That's what some of the counties have been doing. It's just really very difficult to do something like this justice in a setting like this. And what I really prefer is much more of a conversation and question and answer thing. But maybe we can lay some of the groundwork tonight, and I'll refer back to some of the information that's in the handout that we call him Brian number 1 provided to you. So we get started with this. And is this the clicker here? Okay. Go down. There we go. Okay. So very briefly, this is the biggest change to the Medicaid program in North Carolina in our lifetime. And there's some information in the handout that talks about how many of your county residents have Medicaid, how many will be affected by this change, to give you some idea of the scope. But North Carolina is doing what really every other state has done, which is to some degree to privatize, if you will, or commercialize the Medicaid program. Medicaid as it stands today is an entitlement for individuals. So if you have a medical necessity for care, you are entitled to receive that care, which is a fantastic thing if you don't have insurance and you meet the eligibility requirements for the Medicaid program, except that there's not an unlimited amount of money to pay for that care, right? So what states have done is gone about figuring out ways to manage the care that people get. And in the broadest brush I can find, that's really what North Carolina is about doing now. This is a multi-billion-dollar program. So there's very intense interest in how all of this is going to work out. Essentially, it's broken down into standard plans and tailored plans. And all of what we're going to talk about here has been legislated over the past couple of years. There's been a couple of very landmark pieces of legislation, House Bill 403, and I'll get a chance to talk about that a little bit. But essentially, it's saying that if you have Medicaid, you're going to have to choose a health plan to essentially be your insurance company to manage your care for physical health. How it's done for individuals that have needs for mental illness, substance use, and IDD is a little bit different, and I'll try to explain that. So generally speaking, everyone in North Carolina is going to have a choice about choosing an insurance company to manage their care if they're eligible for Medicaid. And I'll show you a little bit about the timeline and the health regions, which are all part of how this is going to play out. And this is fundamentally different from what we have now. The vast majority of individuals will have their care managed in these standard plans. Now, the state released an RFP for companies to bid on this, and these are all the big insurance companies, all the names you know of: United Healthcare, Aetna, Blue Cross Blue Shield. This is all the big boys are coming to try to compete to get these contracts because they're enormous. The vast majority of individuals in your county, and again, there's a slide that I can, or it's not a slide, handout, where we can look at roughly the estimate of how many people in your county will be affected by this. Vast majority will be in standard plans. Tailored plans are similar to what we do now, only they're a little bit scaled down. What we do now is we manage the care for individuals with mental illness, substance use, and IDD. In the future, all the care is going to be managed by one company. So physical health won't be done by one, and specialty care, let's call it, won't be managed by another. When you hear the term integration of care or whole person care, that's what they're referring to. In the standard plan, all the care that someone needs, if you're eligible for that standard plan, will be managed by one company, even if it's an issue that deals with mental illness or substance use. Same thing on the tailored plan, except that's going to be for a much, much smaller population. And this would be for individuals that have, typically very complicated needs. Often there's a lot of overlap with the mental illness, substance use, IDD, and physical health. So we would be responsible for that. Something about the scale of this, for standard plans, there will be 4 contracts awarded for statewide care, okay? And we'll show a map, and I'll skip to that in a moment. It'll help you kind of make sense of this. For tailored plans, they kind of played around with the legislation, and I guess you wouldn't be surprised to know that something as big as this, when they pass legislation, maybe about half of it is about politics and maybe about half of it's about policy. And that's just the way this works. So there are some things in there that, do they really make sense? Is that how it's going to work out? Probably not. This will evolve a little bit more over time, and we have a few years to see how that's going to pan out. But the way it sits right now, there would be between 5 and 7 contractors to do these tailored plans, again, which would deal with the very complicated population. If you want to look at there's 2 things, and again, I apologize, we didn't get this in soon enough for it to be part of the PowerPoint. If you look at the handout that says populations impacted, just to give you some scope, in our entire catchment area, there's 23 counties. So you'll look at a map and you'll see we're about a quarter of the western part of the state, about 1.1 million people. Your county has about 46,000 folks in it. In our entire catchment area, in a year, there are just under 200,000 people eligible for Medicaid. And this is an accumulation over a year's period of time versus a point in time. In McDowell County, just under 10,000 people in a year end up eligible for Medicaid. We serve about 35,000 in our whole catchment area, and by serving, again, what we're talking about now is we are managing the care for about 35,000 people with Medicaid that are having services provided for mental illness, substance use, or intellectual developmental disabilities. In McDowell County, in a year, we manage about 2,000 people that have Medicaid. We're not talking at all tonight about individuals that don't have Medicaid, which is a very sizable population of people that we use your county support for and we use state single stream funding for. It's a very important population. It's part of how all of this has to work out. But in 15 minutes, we're just gonna kind of leave that in the parking lot, okay? But I don't want you to think that that isn't part of what is gonna be part of this whole plan. And again, there are many, many residents in your county that do not have Medicaid, but yet need care and need funding for care. If we think about how many standard plan individuals there will be in our entire catchment area, and again, this is based on the RFP that the state put out just August 9th, I think it was. about 163,000, okay, in our catchment area. In McDowell County, there'd be about 8,400 people that would have to choose what insurance company they would be working with to have their Medicaid benefits managed. And then when you think about tailored plan, and again, this is for very high need, complex population, about 9,000 people. So we're going from serving about 35,000 people down to about 9,000 people. So that gives you some idea of the scale. We're really talking about the center of the target in terms of people who have the most complicated need. And in McDowell County, that would equate to maybe about 462 people. So you see the scale of this is changing dramatically, okay? Let me just stop there. And that's like really just the foundation in terms of you've got standard plan, tailored plan. Roughly, this is the effect on individuals in our entire catchment area and the effect on individuals in your county. Is that following for you? Okay. Let me go just go real fast and look at the map, because that's the next thing that'll be really important in terms of, and again, this is a great reference document. A lot of what, if we were doing this, honestly, most of these presentations I do are usually a couple hours. This would be the level that we'd go to. But again, if you have me come back or we do a work session, we can get into a little more detail. You can understand a little bit more about the policy, more specifics about the populations and whether they're going to be in standard or tailored plans, and then begin to kind of adapt that to what that means to DSS, public health, etc. So, probably the next most important thing to understand is this map. It was probably 2 or 3 years ago the state decided that in the preparation for making this massive change, they were going to develop health regions. And this is the one that has seemed to stick, and it's relative to how this is going to pan out. So if you look at Region 1, which is almost our identical footprint of BIA, okay? And what this map shows really is if you can see it over here, these are the 7 LME MCOs now. And it's color-coded for them. So blue is us, okay, versus all the other colors are represented by the other LME MCOs. The dark lines in the regions represent those health regions. And you can see in some cases it's pretty consistent. That's a good thing. For areas of the state where, how many colors do you see in Region 4, Region 2, Region 5? That's going to be very, very complicated to work out. So we have the best opportunity for stability, I would say, because of our natural health region. There's another opportunity that health plans will have to bid on doing the standard plan business. For each of these health regions, there will be these things called provider-led entities, which are kind of like a hybrid insurance company is how I describe it. Their membership is made up of 51% physicians, and the rest is kind of more typical of what you'd see in an insurance company. They will be able to bid on not statewide business, but on regional business. So, in Region 1 and Region 6, they've decided that those areas the population is low and it's difficult to do care there. There's geographical challenges, there's population challenges. They only want to provide an opportunity for one more plan to be eligible there. So theoretically in McDowell County, an individual would have a choice of 4 statewide plans and 1 regional plan. So a total of 5. Same thing in Region 6 over here, which is similar to us, just over in the east. The rest of the state, there'll be 2 PLEs that will have an opportunity to bid on care. So individuals there would have a choice of as many as 6. So if you're wondering how confusing this is going to be for people, it's going to be real confusing for people. That's why we're trying to get out now and have some conversations about it. It's very likely that these regions will play some role in how tailored plans are offered. Again, the way the language in the legislation talks now, it says no fewer than 5, but no more than 7. Well, here's what the 6 regions look like. So if there were 5, there'd be some migration of counties here. Some counties would go one way or another. And if there were 7, which seems quite honestly impossible from an actuarial perspective, I mean, this is an insurance model, and I'm sure you understand enough about that to know that you need a certain population and a certain kind of fiscal mass to make all of that work. I think 7 is too large. Everyone does, but again, there's the politics piece of this. So we'll see how all of this shakes out in terms of tailored plan. The one last thing I'll draw your attention to is a draft. And boy, I hope I don't get in trouble for sharing this with you. It does say draft on it. It's in your handout. You know, what a lot of counties, of course, care about is, you know, how is anyone in my county going to understand this or learn about this? You know, are they going to be calling here asking questions that we aren't able to answer? So there's a draft member letter that's toward the beginning of your handout. And this is, well, let's just say an advanced copy of the communication that the state is going to be providing to everyone in the state that has Medicaid. Because this is such an enormous change to their benefit and how they access care that they're going to have a responsibility to at least provide basic information to everyone around what's changing. And again, you know, 6 things you need to know about North Carolina's move to Medicaid managed care. Well, that's 6 things, and that's a good start. And of course, people will be, you know, making a lot of calls, having a lot of inquiries. We have a call center. Whenever any letter comes out from the state, we get swamped with people asking questions, you know, oftentimes whether it deals with us or not. So this is at least a little advanced knowledge of the kind of information that the state is anticipating sharing with Medicaid eligibles from all over the state. Maybe that's a good place to try to stop and just see if you have any kind of questions. And believe me, I'm being very sincere. This is a terribly complicated, complex process. That's why it's taken years of effort through legislation and policy to begin with. If we take one more look at the timeline, this is what we've used to educate our staff. A little bit tongue-in-cheek with the airplane leaving the runway, and that's us. You know, our goal is to be ready for Medicaid transformation and be a successful tailored plan. So it lays out all of the absolute major milestones that are going to be associated with this. And again, all of these, I mean, we're starting back here, August 9th this year with the RFP going out. Mind you, the application that North Carolina has made to the Federal Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services hasn't even been approved yet. So when I talked about there's going to be more changes to this, they've already put in a milestone here, addendum issued with responses to offerors' questions. Well, offerors' questions and whatever CMS decides they want to see different about North Carolina's request to do this. So again, as busy and as confusing as that might look, that is kind of the bare minimum of the major milestones. You look at July 1st, 2019 is when you'll really start to see your citizens impacted in terms of being provided information. And I don't know when this letter is going to go out. Going to be somewhere in advance of that. We also expect that our regions, both 1 and 6, will be the last to go live. So this where it talks about phase 1, phase 2, we're looking at probably the fall of next year before Medicaid eligible individuals in your county would be actively enrolled in one of these plans, and they would be managing your care. So it gives you some sense of the timeline. No one fell asleep at least.
Good information. We probably need a workshop though, just to be honest with you. Yeah. That's a lot to receive, and we appreciate that. Brian, any questions, comments, staff?
Any idea how many benefits would be lost during this transition? And how many
question.
people would suffer from it? How many of our taxpayers would suffer from it?
No one should lose any services. The goal is not to change the services that are available. Now, I would say the particular services, so the menu shouldn't change. How much people get will probably change. I mean, that's the challenge here. Medicaid is an entitlement. So as I said, right in the beginning, if you have Medicaid and you have a condition for which there is medical necessity for you to receive care, you are entitled to receive care. There's not an unlimited amount of money for that care. So how do you make that work? That entitlement with a fiscal responsibility to not just spend into oblivion. That's why they're going to this type of a plan. Services will all still be available. People probably will not get as much or the particular services that they may have gotten in the past. That's just the reality of what we're looking at.
Other comments or questions? Okay, Brian, thanks for being here tonight and good information, and we look forward to future discussion about this particular item. Thanks so much. This time let's move to we're a little behind now, our 6:15 appointment. We have Ms. Carol Wolfenberger. Here she comes. She's been in the hallway all this time, waiting patiently. Carol, good to have you tonight. Ashley, anything you need to lead out with, and we'll turn it over to Carol.
No, maybe to hear the request first.
Okay, Carol, go ahead. Floor is yours.
Good evening, Commissioners. How are you tonight? With the vision for continued health care in McDowell County, the County Commission in 1982 deeded to Marion General Hospital Incorporated, which is now the McDowell Hospital Incorporated, the land on which hospital services are provided. Within the deed were outlined 3 restrictions. The first was the requirement to build a hospital within a certain time frame, and that was accomplished way back in the 80s, right? And the land would be used for hospital purposes, and then there would be no conveyance or encumbrance on the real estate. If any of the restrictions were violated, the land would revert back to the county. As the commissioners are aware, Mission Health, that includes Mission Hospital McDowell, has entered into a definitive agreement with HCA Corporation. The vision behind this strategy is tremendous. One that not only strengthens the ability for sustainable health care in the future, despite tightening reimbursement and health care reform, as you heard Brian just speak about, but also sets in motion the reinvestment of the dollars from the sale back into the 18 counties of western North Carolina through the establishment of the Dogwood Trust. That's estimated to infuse approximately $75 million annually to address social determinants of health. But wait, there's more. Should the definitive agreement become reality after Attorney General review, Mission Health and Mission Hospital McDowell will become investor-owned, meaning the infusion of property and sales tax right here in Marion and McDowell County. Additionally, Mission Health System Board of Directors, beyond the HCA transaction, has allocated to each member entity, and that's where a hospital is, in that county, the establishment of a $15 million foundation. That's $5 million allocated per year for 3 years. This separate foundation would be established in McDowell County as part of the transaction. However, as with any real estate transaction, there must be the ability to convey the land to complete the deal, right? So on behalf of Mission Health and Mission Hospital McDowell, I respectfully request a partial release of the restriction for covenants. The main goal for all of us, preserving the access to local health care, remains intact as the restriction for hospital use will remain.
Okay, Ashley, anything you need to add?
Yes, sir. And so Carol contacted me about, I guess, 3 weeks ago. The appointment was urgent, and so that could have been anything. And so definitely wanted to meet with Carol, and we discussed this item and spoken to the board members, obviously, about it. Fred Coates, the county attorney, is here as well. Spoke to Fred quite a bit. We wanted to make sure all the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed on this. This is obviously a big deal for the community. Having a hospital is a big deal for rural areas, of course, and so we wanted to make sure any actions approved or not approved by the board had good eyes on them. So we did talk to Fred, of course. We also spoke with staff at the UNC School of Government. And so for folks watching and listening, the School of Government is a part of University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. You can go and get a degree in government, but they also provide expertise for county managers, city managers, county attorneys, et cetera, on questions like this. And so we wanted to just kind of run this question by them because it is a little bit unusual to have property owned that was deeded from a government to a nonprofit, then deeded to a for-profit corporation. And so it was a little wrinkle that was different. And so long story short, spoke to some of their top attorneys there, and they recommended that the reversion, the use of the property stay, which has been stated that it would as far as the hospital, and they indicated that it would be, in their opinion, constitutional as long as the property was used as a hospital that was open to the public. And so you could never get that in writing from the School of Government, but did talk to them at length about that for about an hour or so. And they felt comfortable, again, as long as the property was used for the use of the public, that it was okay.
Okay, comments, questions by
Again,
board members?
County attorney is here.
Okay.
I've got just one question I want to be clear on. Should this cease to ever cease to be a hospital, would this property revert back to the county?
If HCA stopped operating as or anyone else at the hospital,
would revert back to the county. That restriction was in the original deed, one of 3 restrictions. First being build a hospital, which happened. 2 was use it always at a hospital. And the third one was that no loan could be made except to build a hospital. That's what's being taken out, the loan part of it. The second one stays in, that says that it will be used as hospital property.
Okay. I'll make a few comments, and then other board members can say whatever they need to say. 4 things I take away from this. $15 million coming to McDowell County to a foundation to be used for medical purposes in McDowell County is a win. Second, that going to a for-profit from a nonprofit will in turn generate excess of $200,000 in sales tax and property tax revenue for our county. And we do have our mayor here, Steve Little's back in the back. And Steve called today and said, "Can I come?" I said, "My goodness, yeah, we'd love to have you come." And I said, any member of the city council is always welcome in the commissioner's boardroom. And so Steve, good to have you here tonight. I recognize you in a second. But the city's excited about that component of the exchange. Amen. And the third thing is this. Steve, go ahead and say something real quick.
Thank you. This is a very historic event and I'm excited to be here to observe the county commission seize the moment of continuing the improvement of health care. I had the honor in 1982, when this deed we're talking about was issued from the county to the McDowell to the Marion General Hospital. I was the board chairman of the hospital at that time. Had the pleasure in that hot August afternoon to turn in the first spade back in, and it was just a bunch of dirt, and there was nothing out there except those who had the vision to see a hospital. And we've had that hospital since 1982. Things have changed so dramatically that we're at a point now where the absolute, in my opinion, best way to guarantee that there will be continued top quality health care for the people of McDowell County is to do exactly what Mission Hospital is proposing to do. And I echo and I share Fred Coates' point of view that the protection is there. If ever HCA should to say, oh, we're shutting her down, no, then it comes back to the county. And I agree with that completely. You get all the benefits and none of the harm at all. It's a good thing, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
I know that Mr. Little does a little bit of real estate work too, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Legal opinion here.
For the record, he rendered a professional opinion in that statement he just made regarding the. But I'll say this too. Also, having a hospital in your community is invaluable. You go to communities that do not have a hospital. I know a neighboring county, a couple counties down. Alexander County used to have a hospital. Now they've got a big building, sits empty. Vagrants and crime occur in it, and no use has been set aside for the building. And of course, they've got good facilities within 30 minutes either way you go down there, 4 different directions. But it's a economic driver, and the most important thing though, it provides urgent care when it's needed locally. So that's a big thing, and the potential calls remain so. That's my comments, and I think that it's a win for everybody in McDowell County to entertain the request by Mission. Anybody else want to say anything?
Move to grant the request.
I second.
Discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed, like sign.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Carol. Let's move on to our 2 items left on our agenda. Tonight we have item A under old business, Health Department update. It's good to have Karen Powell with us tonight and some staff members. So Karen, we'll have you come up here in a second. Okay. Just to preface this again, the board voted last month to obtain more information moving forward to determine whether the board would stay or remain in the district. So with that being said, the county staff has given information to members, and the members have had an opportunity to look at that and ask questions. So, Karen, I want you to come up, and in the event, commissioners have questions for you also, okay? And
also, Mr. Chairman, we had a request to have the letter read tonight that was presented to the board and to the county.
Is that the Home Builders Association?
The Home Builders Association.
Okay, if we can, Dave, are you the president of that group?
I'm on the board.
On the board, okay. Give that letter to Cheryl, and she'll bring that in to us, and we can. You want to have it read tonight? Is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
They want to have it read tonight.
Okay.
It was a request of them.
Dave, bring it on up, and we get Barry to read. That way, you don't have to worry about reading anything. How's that?
Glasses on.
Thank you, Larry.
You're welcome. Yeah, bifocal.
You better hold it.
Well, let's go ahead and get everything. Hold it for a second. Let's get. Okay, Ashley, anything you need to add before we move on?
No, sir. Just again, we provided information that Ms. Powell had provided previously to you and to myself. Additional information from the statutes, from again the School of Government. There are a treasure trove of resources. And so essentially what you've been provided is essentially Health Department 101. Again, thanks to information provided by experts. I'm not the expert as far as health departments, obviously. I can read and Google and all those things, but try to do my best to answer what I thought might your questions be and provide additional data as far as how they're governed, how they're set up, mandated services, et cetera. So glad to answer any questions or expound if if you'd like.
Okay. All right. Karen, come on up. Karen is the director. Karen, go ahead and introduce yourself right quick.
Thank you. I'm Karen Powell. I'm the health director for the Rutherford Polk McDowell Health District.
Okay.
Thank you.
We've seen you before. It's good to have you. Okay, now comments or questions for Karen or staff by board members?
No, it's good to hear her presentation.
When we voted on this last meeting, I opposed moving forward at that time. That's not to say that I'm not in favor of McDowell County establishing their own. I don't think we're there yet. Number one, I would like to hear, and I'm sure you're ready, to see what kind of progress we've got, if any, and then hear a plan from our county manager on how we might move forward. And until I hear a good plan, I'm going to sit right where I'm at until I think we're ready. But I'm not opposed. Go ahead.
Comments or questions for Karen? We didn't mean to put you in the hot seat right
No, that's
there.
okay.
I just assumed there would be questions for you. So.
And I did have just a couple of comments I wanted to make, but I want to make sure that all your questions are answered if it is the pleasure of the board that I'm able to do that.
Well, I'd like to reserve the right to have comments or questions after she speaks.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Karen, go ahead and give an update then on what's been done.
Okay.
I know that we have some home builders here and,
Sure.
and they've got concerns and we'll wait and read the letter from the Home Builders Association here in a minute. But we'll give you an opportunity to go ahead and lead out, okay?
Okay, and let me ask you too, my comments are about the health department in general. My staff is here to talk about environmental health specifically because they can talk about the questions that you probably have about staffing and backlog. So I can let them speak to that first and then you can hear my comments or vice versa. It's up to you.
Well, we know our board has talked with you and staff enough to know that one of the big problems would be people in the field to do the job. Environmental health.
Okay.
And we know that a lot of that is to the state side because of the stringent rules and regulations. Because we do know that the district is giving sign-on bonuses to try to get people in, correct? But it's highly competitive, is what we're finding out based on conversations with you. Would that be a fair statement?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So staff, Karen, what would you say? I guess that's the big deal. Just getting somebody trained so they're able to cut loose and then do their own inspections without having to follow another inspector around per the state, per so many. They got to do mock inspections.
Right.
That's the big thing, isn't it?
Right. And so we have just hired 2 new people, probably within the last
2 people based in McDowell within the last 2 months.
2 months. So they were set to start CIT today, and they are in Raleigh starting that process, but they are being sent home tomorrow due to the pending hurricane. So CIT is the beginning of that training, and they go for 2 weeks for that, and then they come back and they have to do those mock permits that all of you already know about, and they go out into the field with our already authorized specialist, and they do those mock permits, and then they're able to go out on their own and work alone. That takes at least 9 months, and you know that. And as you've already heard, the state is not budging right now on those laws and regulations. They're just not. So in order for us to be competitive, which as you all know, we've been looking for these people to hire for a year, and we are offering sign-on bonuses. We have to be competitive in our salaries, and that's where we're really having to negotiate and bring people in. It's hard for us to even get people that are authorized already to apply just because of our salary level. And so in order to do that, environmental health is not state funded. We do not get very much money from the state to do this program, and it is a mandated service, so we are required to go out and do that. So we fund that through health department dollars and our fees. So the only way we're able to make money is through our user fees that we charge the users that come in. And so we did ask for a rate increase on those user fees this year, and Rutherford and Polk passed those, and you did not. And so we cannot bring that money in if we can't make money. And therefore, we cannot hire these people at the rate they want to come in. And that's unfortunate. We just can't compete with starting salaries in surrounding counties at $60,000 for somebody who's not authorized. It's just hard for us to do. We don't have that kind of budget. And I don't know, and only the big health departments do. So you're looking at Buncombe and Henderson and Mecklenburg and Wake County that can do that. And so that's who we're competing against. We have 10 other counties in the state right now that are looking for jobs just like we are. And so it's hard to get those folks to go out there and do that. But we do have 2 new people, and we're excited about that, and we're getting them trained as soon as we can. And they'll be out in the field, and they're both hired for this county. But we can't, it's hard to pay them. And so that puts a real strain on our budget in order to do that.
Mr. Wooden, help us understand. Karen made a statement that as far as the funding, help us to understand what we've done, when we've done it, that type of thing, because I want to make sure I'm clear on that.
I remember it. She's absolutely correct.
Yeah, I want to make sure that we're doing our, if we're in a district, I think we need to do our fair share. And so I don't want that to be a stumbling block to get people in the field. If we're in a 3-county group and the services are equal to each county, I think that's a big deal that we need to understand.
A lot of energy has been focused on increasing the annual contribution every year. I think when I came in as manager about 3 years ago, it was about $245,000. It's about $380,000 now. And so there's been a tremendous amount of focus from the boards, but also the 3 managers to push that forward. And working with Ms. Powell and the previous director, to try to get that level up. If I can speak on behalf of them a little bit, health districts tend to have lower funding from their members per capita than county health departments. And so that was something that was recognized by Mr. Abernathy and those managers, and Mr. Hines, and the current managers, and Ms. Powell, to try to work on that annual funding.
Let's fast forward, because I want to know, and it sounds like we need to table this thing, I want to know the dollar amount that it takes us to be equal with other 2 counties to ensure they get employees in the field. That's my bottom line. If it's a money, we know it's a money thing. If we can fix it and we need to do our fair share as a board. Now, I'm speaking for me now. The board, you can chime in, but I think that's, when the director makes a statement that we're not doing our part when there's a request, I don't understand that. I need to understand that, because we've not formally received a request. Has any of us board members received a request formally?
It was brought in, mentioned in the budget. I think this past year, Mr. Wooten brought it up, and there was some comments made about it, and the standpoint on it at that time, if I remember correctly, and you can quote me on this or correct me on this, was that we haven't seen any significant changes in the health department over the past couple years, or over the past year, and it doesn't seem logical for us to ask our people to pay more money when we're not receiving the services that we need.
Would you
happen
to have those figures with you?
What figures?
If we're different from Polk and Rutherford.
The user fees?
Mm-hmm.
I probably have them in an email.
We don't. We can get
send them. I'd be glad to.
What we're going to do right now, we're going to table this until we get all the facts and the information, so we can make a better informed decision. Is that?
That's what I was trying to say a while ago. Until I get all of the information in front of me, I'm not going to do nothing. I don't know how we can responsibly without having all the facts, and that's coming from both sides.
And just one last comment, and we can get all that information to you, whatever you would like to see, what the user fees are across the district. But it was my understanding at the last meeting where you voted on that, you voted to make that separation. And for me, the concern for me as the health director for this district is the fact that you're voting based on environmental health. And for all the people in this room, that's very scary because there's so many other things that you're taking on when you make that vote that really scare me, that could potentially be detrimental to the people of McDowell County if those services go away. And if you look out there tonight, these are the people that serve the people of those services that are going away. We do a lot more than septic tanks and well permits. That's very scary to me.
Let me correct you on that. We didn't vote to do it. We had a vote on it, and I made the motion, and David seconded it, and it was voted down 3-2.
Right.
So it wasn't voted for.
No, I know, but it was brought up to vote for or against.
Yeah.
And so I don't want you to make that decision just based on environmental health, which we're doing everything we can do to fix, when there's so many other services out there that you as a county will be taking on.
And Karen, to respond to that, in the information Mr. Wooten has been getting our board, we understand there's more than just environment. We got you on that. We know these people. We know a lot of these people personally, so we understand that if the board would have chosen and elected to do that, that there's other than just that one item that we would be assuming, and a health board would be directing, because it'd be a separate health board for this county if that would have taken place. So we understand, and we are keenly aware of the fact there's more than just that one category. And our county manager has gotten us some good information, and you've been helpful in helping him with that previously. So we do, just so everybody in the room understands and knows that we are receiving information on the whole organization. So it's not, and our board respects that, and we understand that.
Thank you.
Let me say too, if I can word this the way I want to and it sound right, I'm sympathetic to what the other counties are going through. And I know what Polk County's facing right now. It probably takes every hand that you've got to try to prepare for this horse event that they've got going on, okay? I know that it's going to. But at the same time, we've got folks sitting here that need things done too. And we need to focus as much as we can on trying to get them took care of. That's the people that I'm concerned about.
And with that being said, Barry, go ahead and for the record, just read this letter from the Home Builder Association. That way we got it on file.
This was written by the Home Builder Association of McDowell County, dated August the 30th, 2018. The McDowell County chapter of North Carolina Home Builders Association would like to declare its full support of McDowell County separating itself from the RPM, or Rutherford Polk McDowell Health District. Builders, well drillers, and septic tank installation companies to continue to suffer financially due to the tremendous long delays to obtain permits. Current wait time for a permit is approximately 3 months. These time delays affect every trade, including the county tax base. There are also services that are paid for but never rendered, i.e. well grout inspections. While the local field employees have given ample effort to provide services we're paying for, the leadership has continued to fail to provide support needed for the employees, resulting in good employees leaving RPM to work in other districts. As chairman of the Health Department Board, Dr. Ben Hall stated at the August Commission meeting, the Health District is the Titanic going down. Dr. Hall also stated, I have been on the board for 6 years, and for 6 years the environmental health backlog has been a topic of discussion. The problems not only still exist, they have gotten worse over the last 6 years, and changes are absolutely warranted. In closing, we strongly encourage the McDowell County Board of Commissioners to stand up for the citizens of McDowell County and separate itself from a failing health district. Signed, Ray Burnett, President.
Okay. That's just entered into the minutes. We're not going to discuss it or comment on it as a board. Okay, any other comments or questions for staff or Karen?
You know, I'm not going to just sit here and be yellow. You know, I voted to move this thing along, to separate ourselves, and you, evidently y'all don't agree with it, and I'm sure there's a lot of people sitting out there that don't agree with me. I've just seen a growing problem. I've seen no signs of correction. I'm not casting a stone at you, but I'm very disappointed with the way this thing's went over the past 2 years. And I stand firm on my feelings of separating. That's all I've got to say.
Now, I received a lot of phone calls, and a lot of the phone calls, the fact that it is stifling the growth in this county, waiting, is the whole issue. I mean, that is it. When you've got builders that are sitting on ground and they can't move, but then you've got people who are saying, why are you not doing this? We paid you to build a house. Why have you not broke ground? Why have you not started? Where were we at? We bought permits. We did everything. There's some type of plan has to be put in place that moves this along. And I'm like you. I understand if we need to belly up to the bar with our funds, that's different too. And we will, I believe, as a board when we come to that, if it's feasible. But we also, I think, the builders, the homeowner association, all these people, they deserve to see some type of plan and process that's going to improve this. Because I think there was a meeting maybe before I came on here. I'm kind of new to here. There was a meeting and there was some plans made and there was supposed to be some great improvements made. And I don't think they saw that by the phone calls I've received. The phone calls I've received, they've been nice about it, but very insistent that something has to be done. Some type of improvement has to be made. Now, whether that's with you or with the current plan or without it, we've got to do something to satisfy and to enhance the abilities of the people of our community to keep the growth rate going and to not be waiting 3 months, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever, to be able to break ground to inspect a septic tank.
And let me add, it's not just the builders, the realtors. I'm out in the public a lot, and I get attacked everywhere I go. And it's always the same issue. And, I'm just, I voice my opinion, and it is what it is.
I'll say ideally, the best case scenario is to stay in the district, and get the services provided in a timely manner. That's really our board. You're hearing a lot of comments tonight. But the preferred option number one, is to make sure that the services are being provided. We understand what you're up against. We get that. And we want to make sure that we do our fair share on the money side. As Tony stated, though, there are some concerns about, if we put more money in, what's going to happen? It's not happened in the past. Well, we hope that can change. We really do. There's a benefit. There's a benefit about being in a district. We get that. We understand that. And Karen, we do and would prefer that to happen. Okay? We're not up here and sitting here. All your employees that are here tonight, you came tonight. You gave up your time to be away from your supper, whatever. You're here because you're passionate about your job. You're concerned about what you may hear or read in the paper. And we get that. We understand that. And we're just as concerned about you and your job and the success of this district. We're concerned about Dave Kehler and his crowd, all the builders. We want them, because when they're applying for permits, but they're applying not for themselves. They're applying for some person who needs something done. And we know they want to get a permit as quick as they can because they don't get paid till something happens. And we know you want to provide employees who can get in the field to do that. And we know you handle other 5 or 6 different areas just right here locally in that building over there. We get that. And so I think we're all vested. I think everybody is tied together in this room to make this thing successful. Would y'all not agree with that? I mean, is that not the plan, to see this thing become successful and work out? I mean, that's the preferred option. It would sure save our staff a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of troubles and a lot of heartaches and trying to recruit staff, because you know what's going to happen? We'll be going head to head with whatever's left of the district for the same employees. at that point. So competition comes into play again. So let's see if we can get this thing worked out.
Well, you want
to
to plan and you want to see progression, and so do we. We get the same phone calls. Trust me, my phone rings all day long. So not every day, but some days. And I get those same phone calls. I hear what you're hearing, and we do want it to be better. We do want that growth. We do want to move forward. We don't want a backlog. But we have to be able to hire these people. And they're just not out there right now. They're not. And so we're looking everywhere. And the only way to do that is for us to up the ante on our salaries. And if we can't do that, we cannot convince them to come here. So I can't make a change without staff. I just can't do that. And so we have to be able to hire those people to get them in place, to get them to work, to make those changes happen.
So you're saying there's possibly people out there, if you could offer them a salary, you have people that are standing in waiting maybe
I believe
for
so.
that?
So see, that's where the problem is for me, because, you know, when the people are leaving, you're hearing one thing, that it's about the money, I assume, and
No.
that's why they're leaving.
Not always.
And then, you know, people that have left have told me that it wasn't about money, that they would come back to McDowell County if McDowell County was alone. Now, that's... And listen,
I do have one.
I'm not fighting the health department. This is all about environmental health to me. And if I have to pull the health department with it, you know, then that's what it is. But it's about environmental health. That's where the problem is. There's no problem with the health department. It's environmental health. And it would seem to me that there is something that we could do to correct that problem, you know.
It starts in Raleigh, exactly what we heard earlier, of not budget. I served on that board for 6 years, and I was against raising fees. I'll just tell you straight out, I'm not interested in charging our people $500 for a septic tank inspection or well inspection or whatever else. And I fought against that. And we would butt heads down there at our meetings and say, Barry, you're the only county that's not raising. I said, we don't raise fees. We absolutely don't do that. But I also saw where we wasn't doing our fair share, where Rutherford and Polk was doing theirs. Now, but the thing was always, hey, you know, you're not doing your fair share, you're not going to get the inspections in McDowell County. That was little slide comments back to us. I'm like, man, that's just not right if we've got people stationed here. Now, we can't just pull out and do environmental health and that's it. We have to take the whole thing at once. The reason I voted against it didn't have anything to do, and I asked you to change your motion, is not to go with it, because if we did, if we would have voted that night to take over, we had 1 year. If you're saying it's 9 months once they get out, Dave Keller's going to be waiting
9 months.
a year to get a permit.
A year and 9 months.
It's not just, we can go out and do that. If we don't have the employees, my question is, how many kids, I'll say kids because it's not going to be older people going into this line of work. Maybe it is, maybe that's what we need because the younger generation will not do it. How many students are in school right now to pick up, be able to do environmental inspections?
You know, they're in school for that, but
How-
when they,
how
well, I don't know.
many?
You know, I mean, Western has a big program, and ECU has a big program, NC State has a program. But when those graduates get out, they don't come to health department work to be a specialist. They go do safety in these companies and those types of things, those types of environmental. They don't, it's not like it's a hard job. It's outside all year.
Of course, it's called work and they don't want to do it.
Well, and that's it, we're just not, and we've been to the universities pleading for students to come out of school and come work with us. We'll do all these things for you. If you'll just come and work for us right out of school, we'll get you trained up. They don't want to do it.
So you raise your salary and Burke County ups their ante $10,000. You know what's going to happen? Those employees are going to leave and go to Burke County. So it's the same thing. That's all. We see that here. If we bring a new industry in, they're going to pay $15, $18 an hour. They're going to leave those $10,000 jobs. I just heard it from an industry 2 weeks ago. Right. The only thing they do is they cycle people back and forth is all we're doing. We're not hiring new people. We're recycling people within the industry. And it's
Except
no
for the
different
new
what
people
you'll
we just
find.
hired. They're brand new. So they
But
just,
that's two.
I know.
Okay? Which is a start. But it's 9 months for them to go out and do their own.
It is.
Now, the statement was made the other night also that the people from Buncombe County are not coming in on the weekends anymore. to do inspections?
I had 2 here this last weekend.
And they're being paid, what, $45 an hour?
That's how I'm around. Yes, I just know they're here. Plus travel.
So we can put that 40 plus travel to come in on Saturday and Sunday and do your inspections.
And Haywood County and Macon County.
And that's just not here in McDowell County, that's in Rutherford and Polk, correct?
It's usually in McDowell County. It was in the other counties, but it's really not anymore.
Okay. So if we're looking at $382,000 plus in a shortfall, that's $600,000. I was told this past weekend it probably cost us $1 million as a Board of Commissioners. And we just raised property taxes as trying to get a sales tax increase to cover some things that's got to be done. There's no fluff. There's no, you read the Taj Mahal for Old Fort Elementary, that's bull. You know, that is not a Taj Mahal. You can see it's going to cost you money, plain and simple, to provide services. It's not going to be cheap, but if I put Dave Kehler 1 year and 9 months behind on septic, he's going to come at me and say, you messed up. And Ken Spencer and Ray Burnett, you're going to come at me and say, y'all messed up when you jumped out of this district so quick, right? I promise you that's what's going to happen. Am I right? Sure. I mean, I'm not saying that I am not for pulling out of the district. I understand, because we served as a standalone for years and we maintained. We had one inspector, Jeter Laws. He could probably do more permits in one day than 3 people could do in a week. Am I right? Jeter Laws could go at it and beat all I ever seen. And now I understand. There's a gentleman in Burke County wanting to build 12 homes on Lake James right now and cannot because he can't get the permits. So you know what he looks and says? I'll go to Burke County and build them because I can get that service provided to me faster than 3 months.
So Barry, what you're saying, I think to sort of bring it together here a little bit, I think that what you're saying is you're in favor of tabling this, more information.
We don't have enough information, absolutely none, to go on what to do.
So Ruth tells me that right now we're at a backlog of 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
My next one coming up applied on August the 22nd. I just sent 2 contractors with 7.
Oh, that's good.
So we've improved 9 weeks in less than a month?
It was not 12 weeks during the previous meeting either.
Last month, when y'all said it was 12, 14, 16 weeks, that absolutely was not true. We were at 7 weeks at that time. Rumors.
This came from contractors and stuff, is that correct?
Yeah.
So she's the one that keeps up with it.
It comes from I'm not going to say it come from all contractors, but it's come from realtors and builders.
I'm sure.
And I have no reason to doubt what they're saying. When they come to me and say I waited 12 weeks or been waiting 12 weeks, 14 weeks, whatever. I have one other question to ask, and then we'll move along. But can you say, honestly, to the best of your opinion, that McDowell County has been treated equal to Rutherford and Polk in giving these
Right now, I will look you right in the face and tell you that McDowell County gets treated way better than Rutherford and Polk, because I was told at the state level in Raleigh to not send my contractors to Rutherford and Polk anymore. They were only to come to McDowell County, and that's what I've been doing. So Rutherford and Polk don't get the contractors. McDowell gets them almost every single weekend if they're coming. If they're coming, they're in this county.
Has the backlog in Rutherford and Polk been equal to McDowell over the past 2 years?
Rutherford has, Polk has not. Polk has picked up because of the World Equestrian Games. It picked up earlier in the year, but it is starting to slow back down. But Rutherford has been at 12 weeks at one time. So yes, Rutherford is hopping just like McDowell is.
How many permits do you have in McDowell County right now standing?
Waiting?
Yes, waiting.
Probably 20 maybe, but I have some that we have gone out to the property 3 times. The contractors, the
people, private, that we tell them, mark those property lines, mark those houses. We go out there, they're not done. We make 3 trips for a $75 fee.
How many do you have in Polk County?
I don't know, I didn't look at that before I
And
came.
Rutherford.
I haven't looked at it. I can give you all of that this week if you need it.
Okay. All right, other comments or questions? Okay. So we've got new information now, it sounds like, that we weren't aware of last month. So at this time, we will table this.
And can I make just one more request, please?
Okay.
Just one more request. So for you to get the information that you need, for that to be accurate and not information, we have 3 empty spaces on our board for McDowell County.
Yep.
2 of those have been empty for a year. So for you to get that information, we need representation from McDowell County on our board so they can bring that back to you. So if you could look into filling those positions.
What are those positions?
Yeah, tell us what.
One for pharmacist
So we have a pharmacist.
and a
we have
dentist.
Dentist and at-large.
So pharmacists.
And if those, if you,
we're working on
and at-large.
yeah, and if you can't get those specific pharmacists and dentists, we can move those around in counties. We just need, we need representation on our
We need our
board.
fair share of that. So our people need to step up.
Let me make a suggestion if I can. These, the permits and the backlog and everything, for just a little while, could we just get a copy of that through email or whatever as to where we are? Is that a lot to put together?
No, I can get that. But better yet, what I would like to do is for every one of y'all to sit down with her, me, Corey, the WIC director, Chris, nursing, and let us go through this. I'm telling you, you guys don't have a clue what goes on over there. And I don't mean that in a bad way.
Y'all don't have a clue what goes on with us out there in the public when we're getting chewed out.
Well, but let me tell you something, Tony. Tony, I had a realtor to come in to me last week and said, Ruth, they've been waiting 2 weeks. How long is it going to be? And I said, who is it? They give me the name. I go look, and I'm like, I don't have anything for them. They pick up the phone and said, well, they said they don't have anything. Well, yeah, we've not applied yet. So what I'm saying is, y'all don't always hear everything. You hear, like, for the 12, 14, 16 weeks, I have been there 10 years. We have never been at 16 weeks. Never have we been at 16 weeks. People, and I don't mean it bad toward anybody, but people will exaggerate when they hear that big number. They will never ask, well, what's the wait now? They come to you with that big number from 3 months ago. They didn't come back to tell you that we're only 7 weeks. That's what we were at the last commissioner meeting.
If we could get, like, on Friday for a period of time, where we're at and what our waiting time is, how many we've got backlogged or whatever, just for a short period of time for the next few weeks, I think it would help us. Okay?
And you could forward that to Ashley,
Yeah.
and then he could disperse it to us. That'd be great.
Yeah. If that's not putting more on you than.
I will work over on the weekends.
Would that be
We're not charging
information?
the district.
Just pencil it on a piece of paper and shoot it to us.
Could that be included in the Home Builders Association, whether it be septic installers, so they could have that same information out also? Not just us, because that's who we're hearing from, is those guys. We don't do anything unless we hear from them.
You get it to us, we'll get it to our folks.
Listen, you guys proved me
Send it all out
wrong,
at
and I will
once,
publicly apologize to every one of you. I promise you. But you proved me wrong, and I will apologize for everything I've said.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
And I can promise you, I'm not gonna budge till I've got all the ducks, okay?
All right, and let's move to our last item on the agenda. This would be are there any reports, communications by commissioners or staff?
Just for adjournment, if we can adjourn to Carson House for our annual October meeting.
Okay.
And that's typically at 4 o'clock, and that would be on the 8th.
Okay. All right, duly noted. Okay, this time let's move to citizen comment. Now, if anybody's in the room that has not signed this clipboard, that wants to speak, come up, sign it, and state what your topic is. You have 3 minutes. Now, let's go ahead and do I hear a motion? We've covered everything on the agenda. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn to the Carson House on October the 8th at 4 o'clock.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay.